Hi, and welcome back to the Britt Mayer Show. Today, I want to walk you guys through the big Planned Parenthood expose that just dropped. And even though it's been in the headlines, it hasn't made as much noise as it should have. And so my hope in walking you through this is that you will understand how absolutely awful Planned Parenthood truly is. And it'll give you some meat on the bones of why this pro-life movement exists and how deep and dark Planned Parenthood actually is. So back on November 21st, which would have just been a few days ago, the New York Post published under the headline, Planned Parenthood's stomach churning emails negotiating for fetus donations exposed. Now, in this, they broke down that these emails that were released discuss fetal tissue like any other commodity, such as sugar or rice, nonchalantly negotiating for fetuses up to 23 weeks old from elective abortions. This all came from a heavily redacted quote unquote research plan that was submitted to the University of California, San Diego, which is where I am and why this is so personal to me, an institutional review board. And it approved in 2018 states scientists who wanted 2,500 fetuses from up to and almost the 6th month of gestation for experimentation. So this all comes on the heels of David Daleiden's work in this movement to expose the players who are profiting off of killing babies. And David Daleiden, for those of you who don't know who he is right now in the middle of a 9-year legal ordeal, which was instigated by, guess who? The then California Attorney General, Kamala Harris, in 2015. Daleiden released undercover videos of Planned Parenthood videos where he alleges that there was some sort of bartering and talk of selling aborted baby bits and pieces. And because of his expose, you would think that an attorney general would say, we've got to look into this because clearly selling human body parts is illegal in the United States of America. But instead of doing that, the protection went to Planned Parenthood, and David Daleiden, this brave independent journalist, was prosecuted. So he is currently in a 9-year legal ordeal. I believe his next piece of the puzzle in all of this is set for San Francisco sometime next month or early next year. But anyways, he just exposed this new layer to how awful Planned Parenthood is and what they are actually doing. So in this, the plan states, we will collect tissues from fetuses ranging from 4 to 23 weeks gestational age from subjects undergoing elective surgical pregnancy termination at Planned Parenthood in San Diego. Now, it's important to remember that you can't sell human body parts, but donating human body parts is not illegal. Obviously, that raises a whole lot of questions in terms of, well, is there any benefit? Is there any sort of pay to play that's not actually cash? How do we determine what the benefit is in donations? Is there a benefit in donating for research? What is the research? Lots of ethical questions. But the contract between UCSD and Planned Parenthood, it appears to allow Planned Parenthood to retain intellectual property rights relating to the fetal tissue, although it doesn't grant UCSD the independent right to commercialize the tissue. All of these emails that were shared with the Post, they came from David Daleiden again and his organization, the Center for Medical Progress, who obtained them through a California FOIA. By law, you can FOIA and you can request public records and you are granted those. So he FOIA'd, and that's how he received these emails that he released to the New York Post. Here's what David Daleiden told the New York Post. These documents show that Planned Parenthood is supplying healthy babies who are old enough to survive outside the womb from late-term abortions to the University of California's royalty-generating experiments. After months of pro-abortion forces and media gaslighting the public about whether late-term abortions on healthy babies and healthy mothers actually happen, to see it spelled out this explicitly in the records of a government-funded body is truly shocking and also extremely clarifying for the conversation on abortion our country is currently having. The Post says that they cannot confirm whether any of the fetuses supplied to UCSD were healthy or able to survive outside the womb prior to the abortions. Now, another layer of this that's really interesting is that Daleiden also, in this interview he gave to the New York Post, accused Planned Parenthood of racism because he cites, and this is, to me, it's just so disturbing. He cites that the consent forms from Planned Parenthood involving the donation of these aborted babies from their abortions that were given to these pregnant women, they were different. So the forms that were given in the English language, these consent forms, there were 15 bullet points that included language that disclosed that the donated tissue may have significant commercial value. But the specific information that was given in Spanish only had 14 bullet points. And those 14 bullet points that were given in Spanish did not include telling those mothers that their aborted babies may have significant commercial value. And so Daleiden says, I don't understand why Planned Parenthood and UCSD felt that Spanish-speaking mothers did not deserve to know that the body parts of their aborted children would be commercialized, while English-speaking mothers did deserve to have this fact disclosed to them. The only explanation I can think why this discrepancy persisted for at least 4 years is blatant institutional racism. Now, UCSD did not respond to comment. I, after reading this article, was obviously horrified because it's so disturbing, and I will have it linked below so you guys can go ahead and read the article. But I wanted to bring it to your attention because I feel like it just hasn't gotten the conversation going that it should have. This is huge to know that Planned Parenthood is in this biological materials transfer agreement with UCSD. There are a lot of questions. Including the ones that I just talked about with why were the Spanish-speaking mothers given 14 bullet points and the English-speaking mothers given 15. There's just a lot with all of this. So I've linked below so that you guys can read through this article by the New York Post. I think it's very comprehensive and it lays out everything really well. So I've linked below so that you guys can dig into this article, and you should, because it's really important to know what's going on and what is legitimate and not conspiracy theory. But in that, I wanted to draw out just a couple things. The emails from researchers to Planned Parenthood shown to the Post notes how they have 27 heart samples, but requested more of varying fetal ages, including 15 weeks and later. Now, this is in quotes. She agrees with me that hearts should be pretty easy to collect, writes one UCSD clinician. The fact that they are talking about human body parts from little babies who were murdered in the womb and then chopped up and their body parts harvested should horrify you. And it should be a part of the national conversation we're having in regards to what abortion actually is and what it truly looks like, which is why this is so important. So here's another layer to all of this, is that there are people who have been paying attention to this whole abortion issue and who have been ringing the alarm. Not only David Daleiden, who has been exposing this at the risk of his own livelihood and has been under this crazy ordeal since 2015 because Kamala Harris decided to prosecute and persecute him instead of Planned Parenthood. But there are others who have also been ringing the bell and calling for federal investigations. One of those is actually Trump's pick for Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who back in March requested a federal investigation into Planned Parenthood. Now, this is what he said. Recently released documents from the Center for Medical Progress, that's David Daleiden's organization, show that Planned Parenthood has been providing human fetal tissue obtained from abortions to the University of California at San Diego, UCSD. The documents show that Planned Parenthood provided the tissue in exchange for the rights to any of the resulting research findings. Current federal law prohibits the transfer of aborted fetal tissue for compensation and can be punishable for up to 10 years in prison. So he wrote to the Attorney General at the time and to the inspector at the time. This would be under the Biden administration. He wrote, I write with regard to the stunning report that Planned Parenthood is providing aborted fetal body parts to UCSD while maintaining intellectual property rights over the fetal tissue and in exchange for valuable consideration. If confirmed, this relationship represents a flagrant violation of federal law, which explicitly expressly prohibits the transfer of fetal tissue for any compensation. So he's saying this isn't legal. If these allegations turn out to be accurate, this is a huge, huge violation of federal law. So he requested an open investigation into the matter with the findings published for the American people to see and to hold any guilty parties accountable to the fullest extent of the law. As far as I know, the call for this went absolutely nowhere. I'm also going to put this below, but here are some of the specific things that Marco Rubio called out and said that the American people deserve answers to. These are the questions. He said, are UCSD and Planned Parenthood still engaged in this biological material transfer agreement? Since 2009, when the agreement was signed, how many aborted babies did Planned Parenthood give to UCSD? What was the fetal tissue used for? How much money has UCSD given to Planned Parenthood during the period of this agreement? What has Planned Parenthood gained monetarily from its control over the intellectual property rights of the fetal tissue given to UCSD? Has the National Institutes of Health or any other federal agency provided funding for the fetal tissue research described? Again, I'm going to link that below. But here is where he can actually step in as the American public. First of all, start talking about this. I have the links below so that you can copy and share them. Share this video if you find it helpful, but start talking about it. Start telling people, hey, did you hear about the crazy relationship between Planned Parenthood and UCSD and how they're trafficking baby parts at the request of UCSD, and that there may be massive federal violations going on in that relationship? That's a starting point. Start talking about it. The more people who have eyes on it, the less able they are to hide. But also what we can do is, because Rubio has already been aware that this is an issue and he's already requested federal investigation that, because it was the Biden administration, probably went nowhere. Marco Rubio is Trump's pick for Secretary of State, which obviously Secretary of State deals with foreign issues, but he is the most powerful member of Trump's cabinet. It would be very wise for us to be tweeting him, to be messaging him, to be calling him and reminding him that this is an incredibly important issue that the American people deserve to have answers to. What is the relationship between Planned Parenthood and UCSD? And are there flagrant violations taking place that involve the trafficking of human baby body parts between Planned Parenthood and UCSD? Demand answers. Say that you want to know, that you deserve to know, and that you're not going to let this go. Because if we can get in Marco Rubio's ear, obviously he still has to go through the confirmation, but if we can get in his ear and put pressure on him, then he certainly can put pressure on those others who can actually bring this into a full staged investigation, which it needs to, because it's dirty, it's super disturbing, and we deserve answers to it, especially because Planned Parenthood is funded by your tax dollars. So I hope that this brings some clarity to an issue that we need to be aware of, we need to be talking about, and gives you some direction in what you can actually do about it. Start talking about it, share this video, share the links below, and then I would highly encourage you to take just a few minutes to tweet Marco Rubio, to message him, to call him, to email him, and to let him know that your eyes are on this story and you want answers. All right, guys, I'll talk to you again soon.